It's the Carter Man. It is January 30th, and I want to take a moment, if I may, without imposing, to share with you a brief history lesson, okay? And by the way, I know I need a haircut. My wife says to me, my Honduran wife says, "Amor, you look like Al Pacino. Al Pacino. If any of you have seen him lately, it's pretty wild. It's not a compliment. But at any rate, the history lesson I want to share with you, if I may, involves Central America. Okay, matter of fact, all of Latin America, because it relates to what's in the news and also gives a little historical perspective that the news media won't tell us. Okay. First, as to what's in the news, I'm sure you've all seen the story that Cuba has run out of sugar. I mean, that's like Newcastle running out of coals. Okay, it almost seems impossible, but it's not under Marxism, which is what Cuba has lived under, severe Marxism now, since I was a kid, 1959, when Castro took over. I remember it like it was yesterday. And all the left-wing radical media praised him. The New York Times apotheosized him. They didn't just canonize him, make him saint-like. They made him God-like, okay? And the media's covered for him ever since. Him and now his brother Raul, okay? Who I think's got to be 1,000 years old. But at any rate, there's something you need to understand about those two SOBs, okay? And I want to lay it out to you bluntly, because the mainstream media has done such an effective job of covering it up. So here it is. The Castros did not stage a revolution, okay? There has only been one real revolution in Latin America since Simon Bolivar. I'm going to tell you what it was in just a minute. But it was not Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro was a wealthy doctor, okay? Yeah, he had some troops around who he did some crapola with. And Batista, the dictator at the time, kind of didn't care one way or the other for the most part. Castro would raid a barracks, and Batista would laugh, and Castro would laugh, and they'd go about their own merry way then. That's what happened. Until the wealthy supporters of Castro realized, why are we letting Batista steal the money when we could steal the money? How simple is that? So they said, Fidel, let's make believe there's a revolution. On New Year's Eve, you go in and we'll tell Batista, Pueblo, or whatever the hell his first name was, time for you to go. Adios, amigo. And you become the dictator and we get all the money. Which is what has happened now for the past, 65 years. The Castro family has stolen all the money. That's what Banana Republic dictators do. They steal all the money. And so with the phony revolution that Castro and his wealthy friends pull, bye-bye, adios, Batista, hasta luego, amigo. Now Castro is El Presidente. That's what they did. And to the peasants, all it meant was Castro took a lot of them out and shot them who didn't want to cooperate. And they lived in abject poverty to the point now where they can't even grow sugar cane, which just grew in the wild before Castro finished destroying everything in sight. Okay? I know a little of what I speak because I know how the peasants are treated in Honduras, where my wife came from. And that brings us to the only real revolution, okay? It happened in Nicaragua, okay, in the 70s. And let me tell you what really happened there. You had Daniel Ortega up in the mountains with his muchachos, and they had been trying and trying to tell the Nicaraguan people, we don't have to live under the hell imposed upon us by Somoza, the Somoza family, for the past 100 years. Somozas were like the Castro family. They stole everything. And like most of the dictators in the banana republics throughout Central and South America, they steal everything. That's what the Somozas did, okay? That's what the Somozas did. Finally, the earthquake hit, 72, 73, somewhere right around there, and leveled Managua. Leveled it. It was horror. Billions of dollars came in from all over the world. People just were stunned by the suffering of the Nicaraguan people. And Anastasio Somoza and his family stole every penny of the aid that came in and let those people starve in the streets. That is finally when Daniel Ortega and his muchachos actually staged the only revolution in Central America since Simon Bolivar. True story. True story. Okay? True story. Now, I was working with Ollie North and with General St. Laub and President Reagan back at that time in 1980, and we were determined that that Danny Ortega was a Marxist, which he said he was, and we had to get rid of him by any means possible. So we funded the Contras, blah, 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 and I knew the Contras, and trust me, they were not the nicest or most honest guys on the face of the earth. But we backed them. And Ortega then held an election, a free and fair election. He lost. He lost. Camora was elected. She served 8 years. And Ortega came back, and he hasn't left since, 16 years ago. But let me make something clear. Ortega says he's a Marxist, but is not a Marxist. He allows capitalism. He allows freedom, okay? He allows people to build their own. There's more. I'm going to tell you something, and some of you are going to say, come on now. There is more freedom now with less regulation in Nicaragua than in the United States of America, thanks to Barack Obama and Joe Biden. There simply is. And that's the full story. As Paul Harvey used to say, that's the rest of the story. That's the rest of the story. That does Ortega dip his beak in? Yeah, he's probably a billionaire now, but he doesn't take it all. Doesn't even take the majority of the money that comes in, and he develops that country into a place that if I were you, I'd invest, because that is going to boom. It's going to be to Central America what California once was to the United States in the 40s, when people just went there because they said it's gorgeous, it's free, it's beautiful, it's got everything you could possibly want. That's going to be Nicaragua, thanks to the one true revolutionary since Simon Bolivar in Latin America, Daniel Ortega. Total story, total story. Thanks for letting me share.